one hand and say that we really should not enforce or even be for the enforcement of a law that's on the books on the other is beyond me. Respectfully disagree.
You obviously are against amnesty or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you obviously say you cannot send back and deport those because you don't know where they are, and it's almost an impossible effort. So what future is there for an illegal immigrant in the United States? And in terms of U.S. policy, everybody seems to say we need to enforce the borders. Everybody seems, and you especially say, you need to hold employers accountable. What happens to, you know, immigrant children and...
Well, if they have emergencies or they need to be taken care of and so forth, you know, you take care of them. But you don't have policies that lure future immigrant children by the millions across the border to become illegal here in this country. That's not good for, not only for us, but it's not, well, in search of whatever. That's not good for us. It's not good for them. So we have to look at what's in the best interest of our country and observe to our friends from Mexico, for example, that what does it say about them when one of the things that they have to depend upon so strongly is the exportation of their own citizens. I don't think it's good for either side of the border. But getting to the point of what we do about it, some people have set up this false dichotomy of basically rounding everybody up and having a massive exportation effort on the one hand, or just saying, okay, you're here, you got us, you win, we'll put you at the head of the line, ahead of those millions of people over a period of years who have stood in line and played by the rules in order to get to come here and become lawful United States citizens. That's a false dichotomy. I think that if we started applying the law as we should and enforcing the borders as we should, we would have attrition that would put things back toward the right direction. If we stopped providing sanctuary for illegal presence, if employers were required to not knowingly hire illegal workers, the situation would begin to reverse itself, and not overnight by any stretch of the imagination. But I think that you would stop the flow. We're talking about, otherwise, we're talking about huge increases in numbers ad infinitum, and bringing in folks who, you know, I'm sure by and large are very good people, as you say, searching for a better life. But you have the obligation to ask, what's best for this country? The bringing in of millions more who have less education, who are added to those here who have less education. We've been talking about that problem. And to low-tech industries, when we are a high-tech economy and a high-tech country trying to raise the educational levels and deal with the entitlement problems that we already have with our own citizens. We can't go down that road. We have to begin to stop that process.
You would not have supported the Bush legislation?
No.
John McCain has been eloquent about torture. Do you agree with his sense that if America tortures and waterboarding is torture, it is detrimental to the image of America?
As a general proposition, I do, yes.
And as you know, the Attorney General, new Attorney General, was under severe criticism for that in terms of what was confirmed. You know, tell me how you feel about this and about America as one aspect of America's reputation, and how some people look at us today and say, you know, we seem to have lost some of our values, what we have stood for.
Here's the way I look at that, Charlie. I mean, as we're engaged in a public debate now over a technique that very few people know anything about, or its application, or what the circumstances are of its application and so forth. And that's well and good. We're an open democratic society. But there are bigger principles involved here. One is that the torture is not our policy. 2, we do obey the law in this country. But there's another one that we might as well face up to in this debate, and that is that any president, and I dare say any presidential candidate, will, if pressed, I would venture to say, will tell you that if it comes right down to it, and the lives of a lot of American citizens are at stake, the methods used will have to be consistent with the circumstances that are presented under those circumstances.
Let me see if I understand you. It's okay to torture and use those kinds of methods if it can save American lives.
I'm not going to sign off on any terminology because it's much too complex in order to do that. It very well may be that the circumstances presented from a legal standpoint will help define the activity as to whether or not it's torture under those circumstances. But that's a legalism. I'm just telling you as a policy matter that as a president, if the lives of a bunch of American citizens were at stake, and I thought that there was a good chance that an individual had information and could impart information
Torture is the best way to get it out.
That would help save those lives. I'm just saying that I would do whatever was necessary to get that information from that person. I would authorize that. I don't
whatever
see
is necessary.
Whatever is necessary to save a number of American lives. You have to gauge the intelligence that you've got. You have to properly gauge who you've got, what information they have. There's a lot that goes into it, Charlie, and I know we live in a soundbite world. But I'm telling you what anybody...
But this is not a soundbite world that I exist in.
No, you're right, you're right. I'll give you credit for that. That's why I love this forum so much. But you ask anybody, if American lives were at stake, and they were flat out presented with it, and they thought they had a circumstance there where information was probably available that would avert that catastrophe, would they do what was necessary to get it? I'm telling you that I would.
You ever talked to John McCain about this?
Not personally, no.
Or Colin Powell?
I don't, you know, I may be mistaken. I don't think John McCain disagrees with what I just said. He's not told me that. I don't know that he's ever been asked that. I think John would recognize that there might be circumstances that a president would not wish on his worst enemy to be confronted with. It's a horrendous situation.
It's a very difficult area.
Concerned.
Yeah, I mean, the two areas that John McCain would point out, one is that he doesn't necessarily believe that torture accomplishes the goals you suggest, and secondly, he thinks that once you start doing that, then other people would do it to us, and therefore
well, those are all plausible things that John knows a lot about. I've talked to an awful lot of military people myself over the years. I served in the United States Senate and on the Intelligence Committee. So it's not a situation I'm unfamiliar with. And those are all sound arguments. There are arguments on the other side. But I'm telling you, when it comes down to it, if you're going to be honest about it, if I'm going to be honest about it, I have to tell you that I don't see that it's a choice that a president has. The president has the obligation, first and foremost, to protect his country and protect his citizens.
Tell me about how you see leadership and character.
Well, you've just defined the most important part of, or referred to, the most important part of leadership. And I think it is character. I think it is integrity. I think that's one of the things Robert McCullough talks about in George Washington.
David McCullough, yeah.
I'm sorry, David McCullough. And
John Adams.
I think he's right about that, and so many of the other founders, and it's proven to be accurate throughout, you know, the rest of our history.
Who was your favorite founder?
Well, I'm kind of partial to old John Adams. I mean,